Hi everyone, Mike Forster here and welcome back to Depression Quest. To sum up where we are, we have had a visit from our mother who is asking how we are. We know our mother isn't particularly sympathetic when we've tried opening up to her in the past. So we are at a choice, a crossroads. Do we pick, be honest with her anyway, tell her that everything is fine, or do we change the subject? Now, if you watched the last episode, I'll link it up in the top corner there. I did ask people to let me know what they would pick in this situation. And the people that got back to me did say option 4, change the subject. Most of that feedback was actually on my Facebook page, which I'll also link in the description below if you want to follow me on there. So we're going to go option 4, change the subject. So the question, are you okay, is something you're finding yourself being asked a lot lately, and it's one that has begun to make you instantly uncomfortable because you don't know how to adequately describe how you feel, and if you could describe it, you would feel like you were whinging and you would feel guilty for moaning and groaning about your life as if there was nothing wrong with it. So, it's really difficult to answer that question, are you okay, for some, especially if the person you're talking to isn't receptive to the truth, which is, no, I'm not okay, but I'm not sure why I'm not okay, but I do know that I feel rubbish most of the time, and I'm not sleeping, and I'm feeling really guilty for no reason, and, that's a difficult thing for anyone to cope with. So more importantly, despite your mother's best intentions, she's quite likely the worst possible person to try and wade through all of that with. Again, because she's not very sympathetic. You evade the question by pretending you've received a text message. Modern day recovery, I like it. Once you pretend as though you've finished reading it, you change the subject back to one you know your mother is interested in. She takes the bait and the topic is successfully dodged. Lovely. However, a feeling of unease lingers and your stress levels stay high until she leaves a bit later. You wonder if you should talk to someone about all of this, someone who will be more sympathetic and tell you to not simply think positive. Yes, talk to your GP, talk to your doctor, or, go and see a counsellor. Counsellors are great at this stuff. I mean, I've seen a counsellor before. I'm training to be a counsellor. They do have ways and techniques to help you in this situation. And we are still feeling depressed, sleeping a lot, not liking ourselves, and not having much motivation. So the next morning, we are idly clicking around online as our phone rings. Sam, a co-worker of ours that we're friendly with, asks how we are and makes small talk. Okay. You typically only ever talk to Sam when one of you needs a shift covered, so it is a bit awkward. You're waiting in anticipation for him to ask you to come in on short notice when he veers the conversation in a completely different direction. How do you feel about cats? He asks. Mine had kittens a few weeks ago, and I'm having an awfully hard time finding a home for the last one of the litter. You don't have any pets, right? See what you're getting at here. It takes you a moment to process this information, and you're caught off guard as he begins to earnestly try to sell you on the idea of taking the last kitten off his hands. It's not something that you had considered before, and he seems fairly insistent. Oh, she's a real sweetheart, she loves people, got her shots, and she's healthy as a horse. Didn't know that was the saying. I can bring her over if you're interested, blah, 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 blah. Right. You look around your apartment and try to picture a cat in it as he continues to tell you about how cute she is. Wow, he isn't half laying this on thick, mind. This is close to harassment. You look around, you tell him that this is all kind of a sudden and that you don't have anything for the kitten set up here, which is true, a very valid practical point. Oh, don't worry about that. I can bring over a litter box and food and all that since you'll be really helping me out and it's the least I could do. I don't want to put her in the shelter. Oh, cut out the guilt trips, man. Look, we're trying to focus on getting ourselves right here. I don't think we need a cat in the situation as well. You can't help but feel like you're being guilt-tripped. Yeah, that's what he's trying. But you decide to give it some consideration. It does get awfully lonely, and it might feel less empty with a cat around. However, since you've been feeling so down, it might not be a good idea to take on the responsibility of a cat. I agree. Get yourself sorted first. Then, if you want a pet in the future, plan it, do it properly, go for it. Don't just do it on a whim because somebody wants you to do them a favour. Right? So what do? Do we, option 1, crossed out, take the cat, knowing full well we can take great care of it. Number 2, decline, even though you'd be totally capable of taking care of it, you're not much of a cat person. Can't do that either. Number 3, can we become a cat owner and use the companionship? 4, decline, you're not in a good enough place to be taking on more responsibility. And 5, decline, you don't like cats. Well, I have nothing against cats. I've never had one, but, I've never had many pets, to be fair. So I would say number 4, decline, because he isn't in a good enough place to be taking on more responsibility right now. Get yourself sorted out, and then look at what you can do to cure the loneliness. I mean, in fairness, you've got a girlfriend. So you can invite her over if you want as well. You don't need a cat. So we say, I'm sorry, I just can't right now. I hope you find a good home for her. You sit through a few more sales pitch statements that border on guilt trips and rebuke them with fabricated excuses about your landlord not allowing pets before your co-worker gives up and thanks you anyway. Good, at least we stuck to our guns there. You wish him luck in finding a new home for her, and as you hang up, you feel pangs of guilt as you imagine him having to put her in a shelter. That's not your problem, right? Don't be guilty for the actions of another person. I really, really feel bad for this guy. He's in such a bad way that everything that happens to him, he somehow finds a way to blame himself. You wonder if the chance of the kitten ending up in a shelter was worse than the chance of you being unable to care for an animal, and you feel pretty awful about yourself regardless. Don't! You've done the right thing. What would have been the irresponsible action is to go, yeah, I'll have the kitten, because you felt pressured by your friend. Then the kitten comes, you're having a really bad day, you can't get out of bed, or you forget that it's even there, doesn't get fed, doesn't get watered. Then you should feel awful about yourself. Your apartment's emptiness feels a lot more palpable suddenly, and you wonder if you could have pulled it off. You consider getting a pet in the future after more careful consideration and preparation. Exactly, so you know yourself that you've made the right choice there. Because you're saying that if you consider it more carefully and prepare, then you might get one. The next day at work, you run into the co-worker and breathe a sigh of relief as he informs you he was able to find a good home for the kitten. She's probably way better off than she would be with me, you think. And that is, again, the negative self-voice of depression. That comment, he doesn't need that comment. He just needs to say, oh, I'm really pleased you found a good home for her. He doesn't need to go, oh, she's better in that home than mine, because that's just going to make him feel worse. And it's that negative self-talk that keeps depression eating away at you and keeps you down. So it's now Friday, so we jump from Monday to Friday, and leaving time is just around the corner. A bright, clear day is giving way to a still, temperate evening. You can hear your co-workers all around you, anxiously making plans for their evenings and weekends, but you're really looking forward to just going home and resting after what's turned out to be a very long and taxing working week. Talk to Alex. She's your girlfriend. Invite her round. Just before the end of your shift, you get a call from Alex. There we go. It seems a group of your mutual friends are heading out to a nearby pub for dinner. Oh, I love pub dinners. And drinks to celebrate the end of the week, and they want to know if you'd like to come along. Well, that's nice. As much as our protagonist here feels like he's quite isolated, People are still asking him places and want him to come and trying to involve him and stuff. You tentatively tell Alex that you're emotionally exhausted from the working week and a social outing like that would just take too much out of you today. You encourage her to go and have a good time since you know it's been a while since she's been out with her friends, but the effort feels futile since you know that she isn't going to go without you. Right. A couple of hours later, the two of you find yourselves in a familiar position on the couch watching comedy shows on Netflix, a box of pizza open on the coffee table in front of you. As you look across the couch at her, you start to feel anxious. You feel bad about effectively forcing the two of you to stay in tonight again. While you are always appreciative of her efforts to take your feelings into account and help make sure you're comfortable, you sincerely worry that you're holding her back from enjoying a more fulfilling relationship. So it feels like we're in a circle here of Alex wanting to make sure our protagonist is okay, and therefore, even though she wants to go out, she will stay in to make sure he's alright. He then feels guilty that she stays in to make sure he's alright. And neither of them is happy in that situation. So hopefully, we're going to find out in the remainder of this story that this gets resolved, because over the long term, that situation isn't going to get better. While Alex does seem to enjoy spending time with you, as the two of you sit in comfortable, almost contented silence watching old shows you've each seen 2 or 3 times before, your ever-increasing fear that your relationship is becoming one-sided weighs more and more heavily on you. And this is why our protagonist needs to go and see someone. He could have gone out tonight, and I bet if he had gone out, he would have realised that it wasn't anywhere near as bad as he expected it to be, or as emotionally draining as he expected it to be. I know from my experience, times where I've wanted to do what this guy's done, and I've wanted to stay in, but somehow I've been persuaded to go out, or I've pushed myself, nudged that comfort zone that I've talked about in previous episodes, and I've gone out. I felt so much better for it, and none of what I was fearing actually happened. You feel more than ever like a burden or a ward to her, and it's virtually impossible for you to see what value you could possibly offer to her in return. Worst of all, this nagging fear has made you feel more self-conscious than ever, withdrawing inwards, and you've started to pull away even from Alex herself. As we've been reading through this, I've got the impression that he's not calling her, he's not seeing her, apart from maybe the odd day on the weekend, and he does seem to be isolating himself. So, we have two choices here actually, because 2 of them are crossed out. So what I think I'll do is I'll call this episode here, and next time round we'll look at whether we ask her if she's happy with our relationship, or whether we don't say anything because we're already worried about her being upset with you. I hope you guys are learning from this game what depression, and not just mild depression, I fear that we're in the severe depression stage here, is like for people who have it, and who struggle with it. And, if you are getting anything out of this series, please drop a like on the videos and also subscribe, because the more people see stuff about depression, the better for reducing that mental health stigma. So that all being said, I will see you guys for Depression Quest in a couple of days, the next part, and I wish you all good health and well-being.